Start in the NBA. Breaking news coming out of Utah. Senior NBA insider Adrian Wojnarowski says the Jazz are listening to possible trade proposals for star Donovan Mitchell. They had previously shut down any talks surrounding Mitchell, but after dealing center Rudy Gobert to the Timberwolves in a blockbuster, they are no longer dismissing calls about the 25-year-old Jazz All-Star. Senior NBA insider Adrian Wojnarowski broke the story and joins us now with much more. Woj, so after the Gobert trade, what changed about Utah and their plans for Mitchell?
Kevin, simply, Utah's willingness now to listen to overtures on Donovan Mitchell. The return they got on Rudy Gobert was significant, essentially 5 first-round picks. And now Donovan Mitchell, teams had been calling, and the Jazz had been shutting them down, saying we are not interested in listening. But I'm told they are listening now. And it would take, a significant offer to get Donovan Mitchell out of Utah. Now, they're listening on all their players. I think they're open to listening on everybody on that roster, but certainly Donovan Mitchell is their most significant player, their most significant asset. 4 years left on a max deal. But the Jazz now are willing to listen to teams as they call and make trade pitches, and that's clearly a change in direction for this organization. Their general manager, Justin Zanuck, said the other day, and perhaps started to open the door to it by saying essentially nobody's untouchable on this roster, and it's not their intention to trade Donovan Mitchell, but clearly now their willingness to listen certainly, and it opens up a lot of avenues around the league. This is a player coveted by numerous teams, and certainly when you see a trade market that includes Kevin Durant, players of that caliber, all of a sudden it can possibly open up, multi-team scenarios as we continue in trade season well into the
begging for a fresh start. Destination Durant, one of the themes of this NBA offseason, as the former league MVP waits for his trade request to be granted. Kevin Durant, once again, he requested the trade from the Nets on June 30th. And we shall see where he ends up. But right now, it is still just a wait and see as we say hello now to our NBA front office insider, Bobby Marks, who joins us now. Hello, Bobby, joining us. I believe, are you out in Vegas with everybody else with Summer League action taking place? Where are you?
I am in Vegas, and actually my doorbell is ringing for my maid service to come in. So, Sage, hopefully she does not walk in during this segment right now.
You always have to put the lock on the door, Mark. So, listen,
I know,
I thought for sure
I couldn't find the sign.
I thought it was room service, so at least it's the maid service. Fine. What do you think?
Service.
Let's talk some basketball. If she comes in, or he, then they're going to learn a lot about this and the Kevin Durant situation. What do you think at this point is the most realistic destination for KD?
How about Brooklyn, Sage? I honestly believe that when we get to training camp at the end of September, that Kevin Durant is going to be in a Brooklyn Nets uniform here, because the sense out here in Las Vegas is that there's no perfect package out there for the Nets. When you look at a team that has traded out all their first-round picks to Houston as part of the James Harden trade, remember, this team can't hit rock bottom and build through the draft like some of these other teams here. And I think for the Nets, you're going to hold off, wait until the regular season, wait for a team like Phoenix or Toronto, one of those teams to hit a little bit of adversity, and then find that perfect package. But for right now, I think Durant is going to be in a Nets uniform when we get into late September.
Yeah, to me, it doesn't seem like that would be that surprising either, and especially if they find a new location, a new home for Kyrie Irving. Steve Nash and company repair things with KD, and you try again. With him being the go-to guy, James Harden's gone as well, of course. Let's say he does leave Brooklyn, though. What's a likely, realistic destination for him to end up?
Yeah, the two teams I just mentioned. I think when you look at Toronto and Phoenix, I think Toronto's got the cleanest package out there. When you look at, certainly players like Pascal Siakam and OG Anunoby, those players fit. They've got all their draft picks. They've got 4 first-round picks. They can do pick swaps here. It's highly unlikely that Scotty Barnes would be on a table and a Brooklyn deal here. And then I think Phoenix is going to be interesting because DeAndre Ayton is still out there unsigned as far as a restricted free agent here. And is Phoenix willing to give up a player like Mikal Bridges? They're another team that has all their draft picks there. So I think certainly if there is a deal to be made, I think you certainly focus on Toronto and certainly Phoenix here.
I have to say, the first time I heard that the Golden State Warriors were a possibility and were on his list, I was like, heck no. If I'm the Warriors and you left me, we weren't good enough, there's no way I'm bringing you back. What do you think about that possibility?
I would give it a 1% possibility, because in this league, you never put 100% no on that. I just don't see it as realistic here, Sage. And there's a lot. I mean, we don't have enough time in this segment here. Andrew Wiggins can't be acquired by Brooklyn because you have Ben Simmons, 2 players on that designated rookie extension. I don't see a blue chip prospect on this Golden State team when you look at Jordan Poole and Jonathan Kuminga and James Wiseman, Moses Moody here. They only can trade 3 first-round picks. And then if you just hit it on the head, if you're Golden State, why? You just won a championship without Kevin Durant. You've proved you can do it without him. Why would you gut your team to do it again like you did 4 years ago? And
I also wonder about the ego part of him. I mean, you kind of have to walk with your tail between your legs and beg your way back in after leaving, right? I don't know. Let's just hope that
Kevin Durant dominated the conversation at Summer League, and with so many questions flying around, it's time to parse out what we know, what we think, and then what we want to happen with Kevin Durant. So I want to start with what we know, and let's start with the man there's no one who knows more than him, who is more plugged in the NBA. It's senior insider Adrian Wojnarowski. And Woj, you were in Vegas along with the entire NBA world. What's the latest with Kevin Durant?
And Malika, the Nets asking price for Kevin Durant remains steep. And, they're trying to await teams and trying to get teams to meet that price. And that's certainly multiple draft picks, all-star level players. Listen, they want a return, that speaks to the stature of who Kevin Durant is, where he is in his career. 34 years old, a player, with 4 years left on his contract. They don't have to be in a rush to do a deal. They do have time on their side, especially because of the time of the year this is. And again, a player with 4 years left on his deal. And Sean Marks came out to Vegas with the intent of talking with other team executives about Kevin Durant. That's been going on. But the Nets asking price, certainly, it is steep, and it is, I think, going to allow this to be a process that goes on, because there's really no motivation for the Nets to rush into a deal or to move quickly on a deal unless it's something they consider, something of a monumental return for Durant.
So general manager Sean Marks is out in Las Vegas, and so is Kyrie Irving. He was there for a couple of days. We watched him take in a few games. What more can you tell us about where things stand with him?
Yeah, Brooklyn's really focused on Kevin Durant and trying to figure out if there's a deal to be had for him in the marketplace. I think Kyrie Irving is on the back burner of that. There were conversations with the Lakers last week. I'm told that that's not continued. I think both sides know where they stand. And I think for the Nets, getting a clear indication of what the future looks like with Kevin Durant before they make any decision on how Kyrie Irving fits into that, that's the sense other teams have with the situation, and I think it's the sense of what the Nets are doing. So I think their focus with the Nets right now is figuring out, is there a deal out there for Kevin Durant? And I think Kyrie Irving is secondary to that, and I think his future may be, decided off of how the Nets operate and the kind of decisions they make around KD.
Woj, thank you so much for that. Enjoy the rest of Summer League and Las Vegas if you can. So that's exactly what we know. And I want to shift a little bit to what we think, but we just heard something very interesting from Woj. We had talked in the past about whether or not we could have seen Kyrie as the first domino to fall instead of Kevin Durant. And now it seems that is the inverse. So I do want to bring in someone who's able to prognosticate not only what's going on in Utah, but the entire league. It's senior writer Brian Windhorst. And Brian, based on what you are hearing, what do you think is going to happen with Kevin Durant and Kyrie here?
Yeah, we're probably into a stalemate here, Malika. It's not unusual from what we've seen in other star trades in other years. The Kawhi Leonard trade to Toronto is an example of this. Dwight Howard about a decade ago with something that didn't happen to Los Angeles until August, where their asking price and the market value there's a delta in between, and it takes an event in some cases to make those things fall together. In this case, what we might watch for is any communication from Kevin Durant himself. about if he were to come out and say his feelings about potentially returning to the Nets, for example, which is something that hasn't been ruled off the table if the Nets can't find a deal that they like. Or maybe a comment about what teams he may or may not have interest in. But that may not happen at all. And nothing may happen for a while. There may be a decision by the Nets at some point to reduce what they're looking for.
Yeah.
But they don't have to do that. Certainly shouldn't do that this early in the process. So my guess is we're going to be stuck here for a while until something else comes in and changes the situation.
Stuck watching, waiting, and listening to see what happens with Kevin Durant and with